Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly comic roundup. We made it through, well, most of the roundup so far. Now it's going to wrap things up with this week's Spider-Man books. We're going to kick things off with, probably more controversial books that's come out this past week. Amazing Spider-Man number 26. You may have heard heard about the leak that came out a few weeks ago, in which Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, dies in this issue, and it's true, she does. It has definitely opinions, the more vocal opinions online about Zed Wells' current run have not exactly been favorable. And those less than favorable opinions have become even more unfavorable with this issue. So, where we left off, in the past, 6 months ago, Spider-Man and MJ ended up on another Earth, fighting Benjamin Raven, and who had become an avatar of the god Wayup. They had very nearly defeated Raven, and Spider-Man was sent back to 616. It took a few days to travel back to that particular Earth, during which time apparently a few years had passed by. MJ had a man named Paul had been helping MJ and Peter as well before during Peter's first visit, and him and MJ were left there together, alone together. They've had a couple kids and basically raised them. They were a family. Then Raven was way up, and Raven was stopped once again. MJ and Paul and her kids came back to 616, and since then, they've been living as a family in New York. And Peter's managed to burn more than a few bridges with the superpowered community. So the issue opens actually, though, 9 months previously. Kamala Khan is applying for an internship at Oscorp, kind of setting up how it is at the beginning of this arc. Oh, Kamala Khan is Peter's co-worker at Oscorp. Weird. Okay. Well, yeah. But clearly the idea was to keep an eye on Osborn. So, Wayup has returned. That was kind of that was what kicked off the arc where we found out what happened what happened 6 months previously. Both Gold Goblin and Miss Marvel show up to help Spider-Man deal with Raven. And both Spider-Man and Miss Marvel do what they can to protect him, but he's also been he's prepared his sacred site, infected with the wilds with Raven has infected the wilds naming Central Park with his symbology, but he was a giant serpent that has a rather I would almost go as far as say Mesoamerican appearance. But Raven tries to sow some discontent within MJ towards Paul, and it turns out that Paul is the son of Raven from the other Earth. Peter learned to see whether they'd be happy, but and so, but turns out the kids were in fact constructs created by Raven's powers, and while they're being kept safe, well, they and Paul, I should say, are being kept safe, the kids disappear. MJ, upon realizing what Raven's done, attacks him. Doesn't manage to stop him, but at least hinders him for a moment when the FF show up. Miss Marvel gets involved as well. And Big and Fist can really mess up someone's face, regardless of their of how powerful they are. Norman and the FF deal with the Serpent in Central Park, and Spider-Man gets a few hits in on Raven, though he manages to teleport away. Reed Richards has an idea, and Johnny Storm follows through with it, and it works to stop the Serpent. Raven catches up with MJ and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel suggests that the two of them split up. However, Raven finds MJ and runs her through with the mystical blade he's been carrying. But Way Up explains that he didn't kill the sacrifice, and is thusly destroyed. And before the FF and Norman show up with MJ, and it's Kamala Khan, who reveals her identity to Spider-Man, Norman, and the FF as she dies. Norman's kind of a jerk about it, but to himself at least, noting that, Kamala Khan was Miss Marvel. My employee was Miss Marvel. She was there to keep an eye on, to watch. She was watching me. But he kind of whispers this, presumably in a barely audible manner. Paul tells MJ that, yeah, the kids are gone. And everyone mourns the death of Miss Marvel. Yeah. I wasn't the biggest fan of Miss Marvel. I think the only time I bought her ongoing was during the Outlawed story, but I liked the character. The stories I read with her, I enjoyed. And I can't help but feel that this is just a move to bring the character back in a few months with a slight tweak to her powers, maybe resembling those of her MCU counterpart. But still, she was an interesting character. There was no need to kill her off. I mean, it's part of this is supposed to be a whole, the 50th anniversary of Gwen Stacy's death. There were better ways to go about this, but it is what it is. I've been a defender of this run, and this is the point where nope, indefensible. But yeah, it is what it is. And yes, there's a follow-up one-shot mourning the death to commemorate the death of Miss Marvel, which for some reason seems to not even have the champions in it. You know, the team she, led. Yeah, Marvel has mishandled the champions in a colossal way. But yeah. Anyway, moving on though to our next book, we've got Carnage, number 13, continuing Carnage Reigns. Where we left off, Carnage had managed to escape after having a building dropped on him and having the arc reactor in his extremis symbiote suit fried by having the arc reactor explode thanks to a overload thanks to a Venom blast from Miles. And Miles had been shanghaied into working with the with Agent Gao's enforcement anti-metahuman enforcement group known as the Cape Killers. So Carnage and Kenneth have escaped. Into the sewers. Carnage is recovering, and he's aware that something is wrong with the inner workings of his new other. And well, since his new other appears to be Iron Man related, well, who do you go? Who would you go to fix Iron Man tech? Tony Stark, perhaps? Of course, Cletus isn't exactly on the up and up when it comes, or isn't exactly up to date when it comes to current events where Tony Stark is concerned. So, elsewhere, the Carnage symbiote is trying to bond with Detective Shade, and Shade is making a point to resist. Fans of Carnage are talking in message boards about what happened at the diner, cheering it on. When Cletus and Kenneth show up at Stark Unlimited, seems like a smart idea. Hey, Arc Reactor's kind of messed up, so go talk to Tony Stark. Though he's informed that Tony Stark is no longer owns Stark Unlimited, and that he did not share the all of his armor specs with his engineers. But Cletus has a better idea. Seeing one of the Stark Sentinels, seeing a piece of one of the Stark Sentinels, wire him into that. But Miles has got himself stitched up. Scorpion's there as well. Also, back at Stark Unlimited, though, Carnage opts to use some of the spare armor parts that are laying around to armor up Kenneth. To a point, giving him what he wants when the Cape Killers show up. Hightail's the first one of the members of the Cape Killers to be taken down. Then Taskmaster shows up and stops Neely for a moment before getting knocked on his ass as well. Miles, Electro, and Scorpion also show up. Electro is dealt with by having a bunch of armor pieces thrown onto her, and well, Iron Man armors aren't really insulated from the inside, aren't really insulated in a manner to deal with electricity coursing within the actual suit. Kind of electrocute herself. But Scorpion and Miles do what they can to stop Carnage, but yeah, they can't, they don't. And Carnage manages to connect with the building's network, which then allows Carnage to connect to, everything. And that is where the issue ends. Okay, that's definitely something. I have to wonder where things are going now with Carnage and Cletus. I'm sure over the next few months we'll find out. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Venom Lethal Protector 2, number 3. Where we left off, Venom and Silver Sable had managed to crash the Shield helicarrier into Central Park, keeping it away from populated areas as it was going to crash into Manhattan. Eddie's friend Pablo had been recaptured by the Vanguard, and the Vulture was working for Dr. Doom and fighting Cardiac. So fighting Cardiac was just a result of Venom's current or Vulture's current mission. But Cardiac manages to subdue Vulture, but Doom shows up, and because of Cardiac and Vulture distracting everyone, Doombots are able to grab the Doctor, whom Doom was wanting. Vulture is surprised that he pissed off Dr. Doom and lived. I think it must be his lucky day when cops show up to arrest him. There's a video sat phone call for Venom, the head of Vanguard, explaining that they've got Pablo, and if they see there's any hints of Venom near a Vanguard operation, well, they'll remove an inch from Pablo's body anytime that happens. Venom is disguised as a SHIELD agent and convinces Sable to help him to find Pablo. Of course, there's a SHIELD tracker on Sable's jet, and well, they're tracking it. Meanwhile, it seems that Vanguard's entire thing is a massive depopulation event, wiping out a mere 85% of the population to restart from scratch. Reduce the population of the planet to a controllable number, rebuild an efficient society under Vanguard's benevolent proprietorship, free of religion and political, basically without the corruption of false promises of religion and political conquest. But Cardiac is, while dealing with his injuries from his recent fight, he's trying to figure out how to retrieve the doctor that Doom absconded with, and thinking that perhaps as he can't get probably can't get aid from Tony Stark, well, maybe he can get aid from someone else. Silver and Eddie had tracked the signal of the satellite phone call to a convent in New Jersey. Venom figured, well, the nuns must have been duped or something. No, they're actual Vanguard soldiers. And so Venom and Silver deal with them, make their way into the base, free Pablo, and they have to face Beta Trooper 2, who, though she does manage to injure Venom, he's able to push through the pain, and Vanguard's device is destroyed, taking out a good chunk of the convent. And, well, Fury shows up, not entirely happy with, not entirely liking the fact that Sable's working with Venom, but whatever. Eddie and Silver meet up later, and Sable says that he's earned his bonus, and that his criminal status and growing reputation might make it difficult to arrange, but perhaps they can work together again. But as Sable leaves, a car pulls up to speak with Brock. The car with one passenger, Dr. Doom, who offers him the possibility of life everlasting. And that is where the issue ends. This has been a fun miniseries so far, and I enjoyed the last Lethal Protector mini as well. Also, just want to look at this cover again. I always do get a kick out of various artists' takes on Jim Steranko's iconic cover to Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. #4. This all being a combination of a take on that, as well as a Michael Golden Punisher cover. I wanted to say it may have been from an issue of What If from back in the 90s. What if What if Frank Castle was Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? But I could be mistaken. Seeing on the signature saying after Steranko, after Golden, I knew I'd recognize the pose that the Venom was in. So yeah. Anyway, moving on though to our next book, we've got Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis #5, wrapping up the miniseries where we left off. Carnage's horde had, some of whom had become the living dead. So we open with a flashback to weeks previously. A scientist at Alchemax working on the Punisher project. We learn that all that remains of Jake Gallows at this point is his head, at least from here up, his spinal column, and some of his internal organs. It's become clear to Spider-Man based on the present, that Carnage is going after the teleport, basically a teleportation port, basically, where stuff is teleported to Nueva York. Blade is going after Halloween Jack. Punisher is trying to protect people from, or Moon Knight's trying to protect people from the Punisher. And Daredevil enters the fray, going after the Punisher. Venom and Spider-Woman are trying to quell the crowd at Avengers Court. Blade is beginning to give in to his zombie side. At the teleport, Carnage's hive has arrived, Venom has also shown up to help Spider-Man. Some of Carnage's followers, however, are starting to realize that they've been duped. And opt to help the public help prevent Carnage from getting to the teleport. Moon Knight opts to talk Blade down, though, and Daredevil manages to send Punisher back to Alchemax. And it all comes down to a final fight between Carnage and Spider-Man and Venom. Venom seemingly sacrifices herself, burning both Carnage and herself in a massive fire. Our wrap-up has Moon Knight and Blade on Conchi's moon crypt. Zombie student to a mummified teacher. Daredevil opting to continue the hunt for Halloween Jack. Microchip working on trying to perfect Punisher. Venom still being alive and saving her father from his injuries with the symbiote. But the city's a powder keg. People don't trust each other, wondering how many of their neighbors were part of Carnage's hive. And but Spider-Man continues to swing across the city. And that is where the series ends. It was a fun series. Something to point out is that apparently this issue makes for the legacy number the 29th or the 97th issue of Spider-Man 2099. So hopefully, and Marvel, I'm practically begging you at this point, 3 more one-shots. Okay, just 3 one-shots. Get us up to a legacy, a number 100 legacy issue. That's all I'm asking at this point. Simple enough, right? Moving on, though, to our last book for the week, we've got Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. This time, the issue focuses on Spinstress and Sky Spider. So, Spinstress we left off with Spinstress in End of Spider-Verse. She had been corrupted by Shathra, but she had been saved from Shathra's influence. But she's returned home. We get a brief recap of her adventures, both on her Earth as well as in the multiverse. But she returns. There are wanted posters that abound of a spider monster. Everyone seems to be treating, and everyone seems to kind of be keeping a distance from her, except for, of course, her dear friend, Mary James Watson. But Spinstress goes to see her mother, who's fallen into an unbreakable sleep. Bishop Octopus has apparently, with the princess being gone and the queen being in an unbreakable sleep, Bishop Octopus has for the moment, taken over the throne. And but perhaps the shards of the crystal orb could be used to awaken the queen. And as the princess is in the process of wishing for the fairy godmother, the huntsman crashes through the window. The huntsman known as Craven, riding a giant green vulture, who will be learned later named Adrienne. But the huntsman is searching for the spinstress, holding up one of the wanted posters, giving readers a good look at it. But James arrives, having seen a guy jump off a giant vulture and crash through. But Craven takes James prisoner and basically says that Spinstress should meet him in the Goblin Wood at midnight to save James. The bishop and his guards arrive, and the Grislord pieces are gone. As Princess Petra heads out to the Goblin Forest, Webster informs her that he's the one that took the shards of the crystal orb. Craven sings a rather horrible song explaining who he is. Spinstress shows up, surprising Craven, as he was expecting, well, a spider monster. But Craven wishes to hunt the true Spinstress, which summons forth the fairy godmother. And it turns out it was all a ruse. She needed the orb back. Norma needed the orb back. With the idea being that all the kingdoms will tremble before her. Spinstress manages to subdue Craven with an assist from Webster, and James retrieves the orb, and Princess Petra makes wishes for her mother to wake up again. Once the wish is granted, James destroys the orb. Though he seemed to have gotten some black goo on him in doing so. Petra returns to the castle, finds her mother awake, and of course, mentioning that awful spinstress. However, that black goo that got on James, well, you know what black goo usually means in a Spider-Man related story, right? Yeah. James is Venom. And that's where the story ends, which brings us to Sky Spider. I don't recall Sky Spider popping up in the End of Spider-Verse. Sky Spider's from Earth 2410. This is his origin story. It was a broken time of storms and plague and famine and war. There were rumors of soldiers with their teeth falling at points, slavers raiding villages in the night, women birthing abominations. But Queen's Redwood had been spared of any evil so far. To ensure their continued safety, the village council had decided on a strict policy. They would not engage commercially, socially, politically. Anyone who did so would face exile. If they left the world alone, maybe they will be left alone. An old woman said her name was Mother. She said she wanted shelter and food, but Ricard and Mary turned her away. Everyone turned her away. When she tried one door, and then the next, and then the next after that, we see her biting her wrist until blood is drawn and letting some of that blood drip into the well. Over the next few months, 10 children were born in the town, and 10 children were buried. All were inhuman monsters. Some scaled, some clawed, some tailed, or hooved, or stingered. They were all exterminated. Or at least that's what the village believed. When Mary went into labor, she didn't wake her husband. She retreated to a barn instead, swallowed her screams, and she knew the life of the child depended on her silence. Her baby, who had 4 extra arms, though not human arms. But Mary decided to do what she could to take care of her child. Years passed. She explained she needed, to her husband, she needed time to deal with the loss of their child, and would take long walks in the forest. But a tribe of savage, a group of marauders called themselves the Cravens, were on the move towards Queen's Redwood. But Mary would constantly bring food to her son Peter. Insist that he stay hidden in the forest, as he would be safe there. But the Cravens attacked the village. The Sky Spider showed up, stopped the Cravens, but was able to save his mother. And while Rickard had some other damning words for Sky Spider, Peter opted to leave rather than lose both parents at once. And that is where the issue ends. Spinster story was I do enjoy the Spinster stories, just seeing Spider-Man characters being reimagined in a basically in a animated Disney fantasy movie. Sky Spider was interesting. I actually kind of hope we get to see more of that particular Spider-Man. That particular Spider-Man variant. It's an interesting concept, I think. And I hope we get to see more of it. Anyway, that is going to do it for this week's Roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.